Gil Capps from the Golf Channel on site at the TPC Championships in Jacksonville. And he joins us now to kind of talk more about that, the upcoming Masters that has been postponed, and what's next for the tour here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Welcome back, Gil. What's happening, pal?
Mike, how's everybody up there?
We are doing well as we can be. We were looking forward that you guys had center stage down there. You were the only game in town, it seemed like, until you weren't. And you're down there on site at the TPC. Kind of give us a little insight as to Thursday they played, and then what happened this morning or yesterday that made that kind of go away.
Yeah, this is a pretty abnormal call I'm having with you guys. Usually at this time, I've already been asked a Tiger Woods question, and I've got my Tiger Woods notes with me. It's very surreal, as it has been, I think, with all of these announcements and anybody involved with these leagues, these sporting events. It was the same there in Ponte Vedra Beach this week. Especially as things started breaking with the NBA announcement 2 nights ago. I think the PGA Tour, they got caught in a bad situation, Mike, because this was the week of their biggest event of the year. And, golf is complicated at the high level, because you have so many different organizations and governing bodies, and the layman doesn't kind of equate that the PGA Tour has nothing to do with the four major championships. The four biggest events of the year, most the average sports fans are aware of, those are not PGA Tour events. Mm-hmm. So this is their Super Bowl, the Players. It's something that they want to elevate to be in that category of, when you say what's the best events in golf, the Players is listed there, right? Biggest purse ever for an official PGA Tour event this week. Prize money off the chart. Showing every shot live for the first time in a golf tournament. Obviously, NBC Golf Channel, the things we do. It's the home of the PGA Tour. It's a place where that's where they all live. It's a very, and I don't mean this in the meaning, it's just fact. It's a kind of a very insular place, in their own little bubble. And so this is their most important week of the year, right? It was hard to, even with everything else happening around them, and I think they were trying to make the case, look, golf's different. We're out there on a big playing field, it's 300-400 acres, and we're going to take certain precautions, and there are no confirmed cases yet in the county, and all this stuff. That was not watertight whatsoever, those arguments. And as much as they wanted to hold it, as much as I think they, for a brief glimmer, saw this opportunity of, hey, we could be the only live sports event this weekend, and this could be we could be crowned in glory. Everybody's watching this, and the rating's great. How great the Players is, and our players, and everything. But that's not reality. And it was probably, in a lot of people's opinions, and mine as well, probably a day late in coming. Probably shouldn't have played that first round. But in the end, in my opinion, I think they made absolutely the right call, as I think all of the other organizations have done. We've seen finally today, right, IndyCar and NASCAR follow suit. And I think they were, at least in American sport, they were the last ones standing. So, a big disappointment for that organization, obviously for us televising it, but the right call when you consider what's going on in the world, and you consider it's really not about numbers. It's just about the potential, and about trying to kind of shut this thing out of communities as soon as you can. And we are, I'm just speaking personal. My personal opinion here is not the opinion of my employer or my company, but we were in a tough spot too. When you consider in that TV compound, you've probably got close to 1,000 people from all virtually every state in the United States, and probably a dozen to 20 countries, all mingling in a TV compound. eating together in a buffet in a tent, where you're squeezed in together. I mean, we're almost more prone to be carrying something in than taking something out. So it's not just the fans that you consider in that arena. You also consider TV and all the people there. So in the end, the right call, and just too bad that's not going to be able to get rescheduled for this year.
Gil Capps from the Golf Channel is with us. PGA Tour announced that the Players' Championship will be canceled. All tournaments over the next 3 weeks was the original announcement. And then Augusta National Golf Club Chairman Fred Ridley jumped in and said the Masters will be postponed. So, Gil Capps, postponed? Or is that just a way to get us hopeful that they'll play it? Jack Nicklaus said, I don't see where they can fit this thing in. Do you see the Masters 2020 not being played?
There's all the golf, and then there's the Masters, right? It's on a different level, and there is a different cachet, and Augusta National Golf Club has capital with all the other organizations and with the public that nothing else does in golf. So that said, I wouldn't put it past having a Masters in the fall at some point, depending upon obviously what happens in the world we live in over the next several weeks, several months. You hear rumors about, they're already corporations and already people who've got a particular week in October. They're booking rooms, and you hear everything. The Masters is in a unique spot because obviously it's a private member club. They're closed during the summer, which is when they do all their maintenance work. And if people have probably seen photographs, some are taken above where the whole course is pretty much dirt. It's pretty much that red Georgia clay, and then all of a sudden the club opens back up in October, and it's this magical green carpet with that bent grass. I'm not enough of an agronomia person. I've never been to Augusta National in October to be able to tell you that it would be in the same type of condition in October than it would be in April when it's kind of gone through a full season. The bent grass is a cool season grass, which is why they're only open in the fall to spring. But I can definitely see the Masters happening. Obviously, the PGA Tour, the Players got canceled, and then events 3 weeks after that have gotten canceled. So we now, Mike, we've had more than 40 professional tour events around the world get either canceled or postponed by this coronavirus outbreak, with no golf scheduled right now. The next golf scheduled anywhere would be middle of April at Hilton Head.
Gil, give me your best prediction possible here, and this is a very loaded, tough question, but what do you think this impact could be on the sport of golf if, let's just play the game hypothetically here, that there is no Masters tournament? I mean, that alone and that impact, how do they recover this year, next year?
I don't know. Long term, I don't know that there's that much of an effect. I mean, I could be wrong, other than financially, right?
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, everybody's in the same boat. It's not, as we talk about with our company, right? And it's, losing, not having any golf to show on television for the next 4 weeks. Hockey with NBCSN, Premier League now going on hiatus for a few weeks, announced today over in England. But it's all the companies that are hurt, and I think that it's not just golf that's going to take a hit. It's right. It's NBA, it's NHL, it's Major League Soccer, it's racing, it's everything. Major League Baseball. So I'm not sure long term that it's that it's something the public's going to look at and be like, oh, well, golf. Well, that's out of sight, out of mind. Everybody's going to have those issues. So when you're in the same pool that's losing water with everybody else, you're you're kind of on equal footing. But it has an effect on those people, and I think that most people would agree with me. Those people who work in these industries, in particular, those people who work in all these sports and all the things that go along with it, with arenas and television and media and things that service all of these events, and particularly those people who are paid on an hourly basis and who are freelancers, et cetera. This is just these, when you close things like that, it's just a huge hit to a lot of those folks, and then a lot of companies are trying to take care of people as best they can under the financial pressures that they will be. But I think in the long term, golf is in a good place. Just earlier this week, new contract announced for the PGA Tour and NBC, CBS, Golf Channel, ESPN Plus for that'll take those agreements through 2030. Major championships are all in a good spot. The one thing I think, looking a little deeper, that would have me a little bit concerned would be some of the lower tier events, and not calling the LPGA lower tier, but they now have lost 6 consecutive events. They had 3 events canceled overseas, and now we've had 3 events here in the U.S. Postponed, including the first women's major of the year, and definitely a league that's not quite as on the same financial footing and doesn't offer the same financial rewards, unfortunately, as the PGA Tour does. And I would be a little concerned with some of these other events outside the PGA Tour and golf, especially if this thing pushes on another month or 2 months or 3 months, as some people speculate.
Yeah, Gil Capps from the Golf Channel here. As you mentioned, typically Augusta is shut down in the summertime. I think you mentioned October date, but does that make the most sense of playing this like late in the year and kind of making it like, hey, the end of the year Super Bowl type of thing, and trying to make it a big deal, something to look forward to? Or, and Jack kind of mentioned, like, you're not going to push out like the John Deere Classic in like August or something, but do you anticipate them trying to pressure one of the smaller tournaments off of a date during the season?
I really haven't looked at the schedule here in depth since the announcement this morning, but they're a special case. I wouldn't, I wouldn't rule out anything. I mean, I could see possibly some kind of trade-off with one of the lesser events in the fall, switching some dates around, or pushing possibly an event in the fall to next year in the spring, or maybe pushing. Maybe we're not talking October. Maybe we're talking more even a November or early December. It's all speculation, but I think back to the point about, what does this do for golf? Does it really hurt golf? And while I don't think so, I think it could be a little boost, right? Imagine if you had a Masters in the fall, and I know we're by then preoccupied with NFL and college football, but the Masters, and people are going to watch, and it's going to would definitely give football a run for its money. That's a lot to fit in, right? It's a lot to fit in with CBS, and a lot to fit in with in the sports calendar, and making sure all those corporations who have ties and sponsors at Augusta National, that those events, those weeks work for them and work for all the clients coming in. That's the big thing people always talk about the Masters, right? It's great going there. It's the least commercialized sporting event in the world. It is from what the public sees, but behind the trees and behind the gates everywhere else, it's the most corporate. It is the opposite, probably the most corporate sporting event in the world. So all of that will come into play, I think, to finding out a date. But that would, I think it, in my industry, in this little insular world of golf, we're in at Golf Channel, it's like, Masters in the fall. How cool would that be? And it would be kind of cool, because once kind of football starts, there's in the Ryder Cup, there's kind of no, even though there's golf every week of the year, except for 1 week, and that's Christmas week. the Masters is different, and it would really get people kind of pumped, in the fall if that were to occur. Then,
yeah. What's the temperature like in Augusta, like in late or early December? That would be really neat to have the Masters right around bowl season and all that stuff.
Yeah, like 40 degrees and raining or something.
Well, it could, anywhere in the South you can get
right.
That time of year. It can be cool and or even downright cold with frozen precipitation, or you can get Indian summer type days and highs around 70. So it definitely, your weather would be not like it can fluctuate, obviously, even the second week in April, right? We've seen over the years, we've had every type of weather almost, except for frozen precipitation. But in December, it would be early December. That could be a challenge, but
59 degrees is the average temperature in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in December. So,
yeah, which is balmy to you guys, So it's fascinating to kind of think about it, and like I said, it excites people, and I think that's the word. Big difference between the word postponed and the word canceled, and to think that the Masters could still happen later this year. It definitely excites people, but it's a big blow for every sport. I think, though, when you look at it, it's a big blow for a lot of golfers because this is an Olympic year too, and so Olympic qualifying through world ranking points, and now we've lost a lot of big events for the men and some big events for the women as well.
Right.
And who knows what's going to happen with the Olympics, but I think the one thing we were talking, that this kind of does, you look at the Olympic rankings and Tiger, it kind of helps him. Kind of helps Tiger because he hasn't really played well. He's fallen down the Olympic rankings a little bit. He's now kind of in a second alternate spot for the U.S. team. But now with these events that he wasn't going to be playing, who knows how healthy he was for the Masters. If we get back going here and there is an Olympics and Tiger can have a good event or two or a win or two here if we start playing again in 2 months or 3 months beforehand, maybe he could get on that men's Olympic team. That's something to keep an eye out. Something very trivial, but at the same for golf fans and Tiger fans to think about.
Gil, when Tiger and Phil did the Tiger versus Phil match there, is that approved by the PGA? Like, are they completely a part of that, the PGA Tour? Like, I'm just curious if Tiger and Phil get creative here and say, there's no golf. How about next month, me and you, or in 2 weeks? Do players get creative here and try and work something out in that manner?
No, I don't think so whatsoever. I mean, this is what's happening is bigger than a couple of guys wanting to get together for some hits and giggles and some cash. That would not be a very good look. I think that's another reason that the players got canceled, because they were taking some criticism, and I don't think some of the players and some of the sponsors maybe were happy if it went ahead and be associated with that. But to answer your question, as PGA Tour members, they have to get PGA Tour releases. They have to get releases to play in events that aren't official PGA Tour events. And when Tiger and Phil put on that match play, they had to get a release, and they also kind of got the PGA Tour in with some of the organization and a little bit of a financial cut as well. So no, that event in any special event, such as the Skins game that was over in Japan last fall, prior to Tiger's 82nd PGA Tour win, all of that's got to be done with PGA Tour approval if you're a PGA Tour member.
Gil Capps for the Golf Channel. By the way, Augusta is, of course, in Georgia. I said South Carolina, but it's in Georgia, and it is 60 degrees in December on average. So if they want to do it December, let's do the Masters Christmas week in Georgia, Augusta.
That's a beach day here.
Gil Capps, like all guests, of course, appear via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Give us some insight on everything that happened at the TPC and what's next for the Masters and golf. Great stuff, Gil. We appreciate it as always, pal.
Well, fingers crossed, PGA Championship, which is scheduled for Harding Park out in San Francisco the middle of May, would be the next major big event. So Hopefully, I'm talking to you from out there. Then we will soon find out. Stay safe.
All right, pal. We'll talk to you then. It's a unbelievable day where the Masters has also become a casualty.